Roaring into today's chatter with all the fire of a fourth-quarter comeback, Lions News Fan Report is back in your ears. And if you're as hungry as I am for Detroit dominance, smash that like button and subscribe right now for we're about to dive headfirst into a swirling rumor that could redefine our quarterback room. Picture this, a thunderous roar at Ford Field when supporters learned that Brad Holmes might be eyeing UFL MVP Bryce Perkins, the dual-threat dynamo fresh off a season of lighting up the United Football League. Could this be the spark that finally ignites our offense's championship ambitions? Is Detroit prepared to roll the dice on a signal caller who not only carved defenses to shreds through the air, but also bulldozed his way on the ground? Consider the backdrop. After relying on Hendon Hooker's flashes and Kyle Allen's steadiness, we've seen too many drives stall and too many late-game opportunities slip through our claws. The chatter among insiders is thick with the notion that our offense needs that unpredictable element, a quarterback whose legs can shatter a collapsing pocket and whose arm can thread the needle to our speedy playmakers. Enter Bryce Perkins, the 6'3" pocket runner who exploded for over 1,300 passing yards at a near 70% clip, threw 9 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions, and racked up nearly 300 rushing yards with 5 scores on the ground end. Road to clinching UFL Offensive Player of the Year and League MVP honors. Imagine him lining up under center in Honolulu blue and silver, juking linebackers on zone read keepers before unleashing a perfect spiral to Amon-Ra or Hutchinson, turning what was once a predictable second down play into a nightmare for opposing coordinators. Christian Boer of Lions Wire even argues that adding Perkins to the competition could elevate our backup derby into a high-stakes showdown, pushing Hooker and Allen to their limits and giving Dan Campbell a genuine chess piece. Who can adapt on the fly? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Think about the journey this former Virginia Cavalier has charted. Undrafted, thrust into Sean McVay's Rams huddle, earning a Super Bowl ring, then proving his mettle in the UFL. Could he be the underdog? Story that Detroit fans rally behind? A warrior who's paid dues at every level, ready to clinch the starting gig in Motown? And what does this mean for our draft strategy? Will we pivot away from selecting a rookie hurler if Perkins arrives? Or is this a bridge solution designed to buy time for a future franchise star? The mere possibility of Perkins taking snaps for the Lions sends tremors through NFC North rivals. Can you imagine the Packers' defensive front, already reeling from our pass rush, having to spy on a QB who's just as likely to keep as he is to throw? And what about the chemistry with our receiving cores, starved for that big play connection that only a quarterback with Perkins' blend of poise and power can provide? Now picture training camp unfolding like a gladiator arena. Perkins striding onto the turf alongside Hooker and Allen. Each snap a statement, every drill a chance to carve out superiority. The locker room buzz will crackle with energy. Veterans rallying around the fierce competition as rookies watch wide-eyed, fueled by the urgency of earning a roster spot. Could this internal battle forge a stronger bond across the entire offense? Might the very act of vying for that starting nod unlock new layers of performance from our run game and pass protection? Imagine Dan Campbell, ever the motivator, stirring the pot calling for quarterbacks to push each other harder, igniting a spark that sets our whole playbook ablaze. And yet, as tantalizing as all this sounds, the question remains shrouded in suspense. Will Brad Holmes pull the trigger and ink Bryce Perkins to a contract that shakes the league? Or will he trust the incumbents on the roster and focus on building around Hooker? The answer lies somewhere in the balance of our front office's ambition and Perkins' hunger to prove he belongs among the NFL's elite. But one thing's for sure, if Detroit lands this dynamic ball carrier turned passer, the roar inside Ford Field might just become the loudest in the NFL. What will the next chapter in this saga reveal? And how soon will we learn whether Perkins truly is the missing piece in our championship puzzle? If you believe the Lions are finally ready to roar, hit that like button and let's finish what we started. Picture the moment when Bryce Perkins takes his first NFL snap in Honolulu blue snap. counts ticking upward as the crowd rises in unison, breath held, waiting to see if this underdog warrior can unlock a new era for Detroit. In that instant, the Lions' identity would shift from perennial hopefuls to daring architects of their own destiny. No longer would fans settle for small victories. Instead, they'd demand highlight reel escapades and fourth-quarter heroics. Remember the electric surge when Barry Sanders danced through Myers' defense, or when Matthew Stafford unleashed a cannon on the Vikings? Perkins could reignite that same spine-tingling energy, blending a powerful arm with explosive legs so that every handoff, every rollout becomes a statement. We're here to dominate, not just to compete. Imagine Thanksgiving Day at Ford Field. Transformed into Perkins Day, with flyers in every tailgate and a sea of jerseys chanting his name. The moment he scampered past the edge-breaking tackles, shattering ankles, then lofting a perfect touchdown pass, you'd swear the stadium trembled under the weight of collective euphoria. For the die-hard faithful, it would feel like justice served. A front office daring enough to reach outside the draft to find a game-changer. And for the rest of the league, it would be a warning shot, one that says Detroit no longer fears the underdog label. It embraces it. While rivals scramble to plug leaks with modest free agent signings or mid-round picks, the Lions would be crafting legend with a quarterback who's already tasted championship victory in another league. But let's take a step back and consider the stakes. If Perkins seizes a starting role, what does that mean for Hendon Hooker's progression curve or Kyle Allen's veteran savvy? Those internal battles would ignite a relentless competitive fire that could push every offensive piece to new heights. Offensive line rookies polishing their technique, wide receivers fighting for those coveted targets, and running backs carving out lanes in a revamped run-pass option attack, all galvanizing around a leader who refuses to be bottled up. And history tells us that the fiercest locker rooms breed the greatest success. Think of the '85 Bears, where personalities clash until they coalesce into one of the most dominant defenses ever. Could this quarterback carousel forge the next great Lions squad, bonded by the crucible of competition? Contrast that with the fallout for NFC North foes. The Packers, still reeling from Aaron Rodgers' departure, would face yet another multifaceted adversary capable of improvising when schemes fall apart. The Vikings' vaunted defense, accustomed to pinning ears back, would have to account for a quarterback who can slip, spin, and sprint as deftly as he can drop dimes. Even the Bears, locked in rebuild mode, would be left flailing at shadows as Perkins tears off yet another draw play before rifling a pass downfield. Detroit's schedule could morph from daunting gauntlet to thrilling showcase as every division game becomes an instant classic. And the playoff picture? Suddenly, the Lions aren't just fighting for wild card slots. They're hunting division crowns and gearing up for primetime showdowns on national broadcasts. Of course, dreams and reality must converge. The adaptation from UFL stardom to NFL. Rigor is no small leap, and there will be growing pains, botched handoffs, calibration issues with NFL-caliber defenses, and inevitable whispers of, is he ready? But hey, isn't that what makes the journey so intoxicating? Each misstep would only fuel the narrative, the resilient warrior, undeterred by setbacks, rising again like a champion. Dan Campbell's locker room sermons would take on fresh meaning as he rallies the troops around a quarterback who embodies grit and determination. Remember the way fans rallied behind Stafford's grit in 16 as he led that miraculous comeback. Against the Seahawks, Perkins could inherit that mantle, weaving his own chapter into Detroit lore. As the sun sets on speculation and the ink dries on that first contract offer, one thing is certain: Detroit stands on the cusp of an identity rebirth. This isn't about playing it safe or treading water. It's about torching expectations and carving a path defined by audacity. Whether Bryce Perkins becomes the breakout star we crave or a footnote in Lions history, the very act of chasing this dream sends a message: we're done waiting. So tell me, Lions family, are you ready to embrace the roar of a new dawn? The clock is ticking, and the next play could change everything.